Thinking back on my Avatar The Last Airbender, the video game video, and with some freshly deserved criticism from my friend group, I won't lie, I was trying to sound cool and silly while also trying to put on my best convince people to buy the video game face. Not realizing in that instance, most people don't have a PS2 lying around, and that the game isn't shelved in stores or circulated in major retail shops anymore. Sometimes I am the pigeon and others the statue. That day I was definitely the statue. Today, however, I am talking about the tie-in game for Book 2 of Avatar The Last Airbender. So sit down, grab some popcorn, and for hopefully the next 40-ish minutes, listen to a grown man have a conniption over a rushed late 2000s franchise tie-in game on the PS2 that every popular cartoon got at the time. I'm Mr. J, and pray for my sanity as I talk about Avatar The Last Airbender, The Burning Earth. The first thing you should know about The Burning Earth is it does not follow the same story beats as Book 2. At all. How? Well, the game starts with General Fong and the Earth Nation army attacking Team Avatar out of nowhere, as opposed to the General working with Aang and failing to coax out the Avatar state with silly ideas before ultimately faking Katara's death as a means to get Aang to successfully achieve the Avatar state, but also learning from Roku that the double-edged sword of that power and how vulnerable he is in the Avatar state. The Burning Earth's first chapter, though, does a good job explaining the basic mechanics of the game, the light and heavy combos, utilizing each character's special ability, opening chests, and consuming health potions, and how the Avatar State QuickTime minigame works. Also, an interesting tidbit I found while searching, the achievements for Xbox 360 can be easily gained in the first chapter because all you need to do is get a 50 combo string, and boom! 1,000 gamer score. And after Aang and Katara survive the first of many weird story changes, Sokka knocks General Fong on the head so that Team Avatar can get moving to Omashu for Earthbender training from Bumi. And next up is... Omashu? Wait, what about Zuko and Iroh meeting up with Princess Azula, Zuko's sister, and avoiding capture? They jumped past what kickstarted Zuko's journey of change as a character. Not only that, but they skipped it. They skipped the Cave of Two Lovers and Secret Tunnel. No backstory of Omashu, no funny nomads. The impact of the journey was that they did all of that to reach Omashu and learn that it's now under Fire Nation rule. It also removes the B-plot of Zuko beginning to learn of the atrocities of war committed by the Fire Nation from the perspective of an ordinary citizen. Okay, Chapter 2 starts up. It skipped over the formation of Azula's, and I paraphrase, small elite team of skilled fighters to bring back Zuko and Iroh to the Fire Nation. Alright, at the very least, Sokka's Pentapox outbreak plan wasn't nixed. I don't really think you could do that without major consequences to the story. Omashu isn't a bad level. I get to learn the puzzle-solving aspects of the game, however simple they are, and... Is that the pretty lady sound effect? Huh, it is. I didn't think I'd find that sound effect here. Oh, and the neat thing is everyone in the game can double jump. Aang, I can see doing that, the rest of the cast within reason, and I chalk Sokka being able to do that because of Boomerang. A short while later through the sewers, and now I'm on the surface, looking for pentapods. Oh hey look, a secret! You know what that means? Secret tunnel! That never gets old. So once Aang and Sokka find the pentapie they need, Aang and Katara head up to the construction site to free King Bumi, who surrendered when the Fire Nation showed up. At this time, I get to wield focus moves. They're usually button prompts or quick time events that require certain characters to use. They're not normally combat-oriented abilities, so I was mostly using them to solve incredibly easy environmental puzzles. Now it's Zuko? Iroh? What are they doing here? Again, they changed the story beat. Zuko and Iroh are still on their fugitive/commoner journey. Heck, they aren't even supposed to be featured here in the corresponding episode Return to Omashu. My brain hurts. Running through the construction yard brings me to the Fire Nation governor. Wait, no, Grandpa Max, you need to fight Vilgax's control. We're not the bad guys. Wait, wrong network, wrong franchise. Whoops, carry on. So after borking up the Avatar State quick time event, I then shaved down the Fire Nation governor's health the old-fashioned way. Dodge rolls and back combos. And with that, Boomy is safe. The writing team for The Burning Earth skipped over a lot, but it's still keeping the story thus far on track, aside from the weird edits. Yeah, at least it didn't remove the swamp. It's one of the most integral parts of Aang gaining clues as to who his earthbending teacher is, and that the swamp shows visions of the past, present, and future. And so far so good. Katara and Momo wade through the first area of the level, even though Aang was supposed to be with Katara and Sokka, and Momo got lost alongside Appa, helping untangle him from the vines. Oh, now he's leaving to help Appa. Why is Jet here? He's not supposed to show up until the serpents pass. Maybe he's a hallucination. The swamp shows realistic illusions of people. Now the perspective shifts to Aang and Sokka, skipping over Katara being with the two. But the game needs to have two playable characters at all times. Oh wow. Passing through some rolling logs, a field of giant flowers, gathering another secret tunnel! Lying around in the open, doing some environmental work around the swamp while platforming around. It then brings Sokka and Aang to the swamp village, and back to Katara, who gaslights them into thinking Jet showed up. This is all going off the rails so far because it was Momo and Appa getting away from the foggy swamp residents Tho and Do and their buddies, while Aang and Katara and Sokka dealt with their visions in the swamp and discussed them. What does happen next in the game is Momo and Appa run away from the swamp benders, and the game's first aerial shooting section happens. I mean, it took a little getting used to, but after that, it immediately has Aang finding Appa and Momo before getting attacked by the spirit of the swamp. Then upon learning the true identity of the spirit, Aang discovers the drill like 9 episodes early and a clear vision of Toph when they found out 2 episodes later. That's not what happened at all. What happens is the three find the big guy, chop him up like a cucumber on salad night, and learn another resident of the foggy swamp who was protecting, his name is Who, was protecting the tree at the dead center. It's here where Aang learns his spiritual connection to the world from Who and the tree itself. And the trees give Aang an emergency call for Momo and Appa that Tho, Do, and several other swamp benders of the swamp have captured and want to eat them. Before Team Avatar arrives, clears up the misunderstanding, and has dinner at the foggy swamp camp. With the headache that is Chapter 2 over, Chapter 3 immediately just skips over Avatar Day, where Avatar Kyoshi's badassery is on display, and where Team Avatar eat unfried dough, and only later get to their next destination, where Aang is finally looking for his earthbending teacher. They're going through town, defeating bandits, collecting a couple more secrets, secret tunnel, and causing some property damage, and now Aang is at the Earthbending Academy. This is, again, going off script because Aang got a free lesson, which was just him being hit with rocks, and Master Yu being about as helpful as a concrete life preserver. It's only through sheer happenstance that Team Avatar landed in the town, Katara squeezing the info out of some students, and Aang finding out that his earthbending teacher is at Earth Rumble 6. They didn't even learn the identity of who Aang's earthbending teacher was until they asked the same boys from Master Yu's academy, not from Leisure Suit Zenfu. After heading back to town to look for the Beifong family, as the clues thus far pointed them in that direction, Aang and Sokka get captured by Gowling mercenaries. This didn't happen. The canonicity of events has officially flown out the window. So again, a few puzzles later, another secret tunnel down, and it puts Aang and Sokka back on track to finding the girl from Aang's vision. The way the game deviates from the story is Aang and Sokka are sneaking into the Beifong estate in barrels Metal Gear Solid style before coming face to face with Toph Beifong. Toph and Aang have a conversation, the two are ambushed, with Aang being kidnapped and Toph being locked in a metal holding thing. and not kidnapped because, again, the game needs 2 characters to function, so then it's going up to the Earth Rumble Arena, doing another boss battle with more riveting gameplay. What are you gonna do now, Mr. Zircon? Oh wait, I'm getting my characters mixed up, and The Last Airbender doesn't even take place in space. It's then off to find Professor Zay because the gang have the plans for the Fire Nation drill from the professor's colleague in prison. There's even more jumps ahead with story content, as Aang already met Toph at the Beifong family estate via sneaking in, getting kicked out, coming back by using his status as the Avatar to come in through the front door, and being welcomed to dinner, with the 2 calling a truce, Aang learning from Toph that she sees through the earth, and doesn't want her parents to know about her escapades as the Blind Bandit because they can't perceive her as nothing more than a fragile little girl. Then Xinfu shows up, kidnaps Aang and Toph, and wants payment to have the 2 returned. Then, after Toph's family and Sokka and Katara show up, Toph throws hands with Xinfu, creams him while showing off to her parents that she's not a helpless little kid, rescues Aang, all leading to Toph's parents restricting her freedom even more because they misinterpreted the whole situation. Finally pushing Toph to run away and join Team Avatar so she can be free to do what she wants and teach Aang earthbending. As I'm moving into Chapter 4, I'm frustrated because Zuko alone. The chase and bitter work were cut out completely. It skips over Zuko on his journey alone, obviously. Learning how despised and hated the Fire Nation is, how poorly folks outside the Earth Kingdom and Fire Nation have it, and parts of Zuko's past before becoming disgracefully banished from home. Then Toph learns about how to accept help from her newfound friends, and who Iroh, Zuko, and Azula are. With Aang meeting Azula for the first time, and Toph understanding the weight of the situation Team Avatar is in. And lastly, Aang learns how to earthbend from Toph while Iroh tries to teach Zuko how to bend lightning, and when that doesn't work out, how to redirect lightning. That's the SparkNotes version of all the important events that were skipped over to the next chapter of the Burning Earth, the library. Sure, Toph teaches earthbending to Aang here, but the episode itself has more impact because Toph was trying to get Aang to learn that with earthbending, there's no fancy trick or hidden angle to earthbending. He has to stand his ground and be resolute and hit that boulder with what he's got. Nothing else. Upon reaching the resort, Toph and Aang give some sandbenders the boot, find Professor Zay. I'm then doing another flying segment with Azula showing up again when she isn't supposed to be here. Then it's taking Aang and Toph up the spire to get to the library, meeting with the knowledge spirit Wan Shi Tong, and promising not to abuse the knowledge of his library before splitting up and finding what they need. Sokka and Momo branch off to find the darkest day in Fire Nation history, in the planetarium, while Aang and Katara go off to find plans for the giant drill. Sokka and Momo's segment is pretty short, while Aang and Katara's take up the whole rest of the chapter. It's pretty simple. Open doors, collect blueprint pieces, gather the secret tunnel that lie around the library, beat up the stone soldiers that come to life, and get them back on the giant, conveniently placed stone slab in the beginning area. Aang and Katara learn about the drill, and even though I've said it numerous times, again, they don't learn about that until reaching Ba Sing Se, which causes Wan Shi Tong to sink the library, which doesn't make sense because it was Sokka who found a countermeasure against the Fire Nation that caused Wan Shi Tong to crash out and sink the library. Well, finishing up the level, which was just running from Moya Machine McGee over here, while I'm running against the clock, and it's ending the chapter with Appa being abducted by sandbenders, and Aang venting his frustration. Moving on to Chapter 5, we're now at City of Walls and Secrets? Wait, We just skipped over the events of the desert and the Serpent's Pass. It completely runs past Zuko and Iroh's journey into Ba Sing Se, Jet officially showing up in Book 2 with his freedom fighters and connecting with Zuko and Iroh, and the journey that Team Avatar has to take to get to Ba Sing Se as well, meeting back up with old friends, helping some new ones cross over into the country, and finally, we learn about the Fire Nation drill inching closer to Ba Sing Se. But let's continue on with the game's chain of events thus far. Team Avatar split up into two teams, Sokka and Toph, and Aang and Katara. Sokka and Toph break more story beats as, instead of meeting Aang as he arrives in the city and dealing with the drill, they head towards the Earth King's palace to discuss the Fire Nation drill plans, only to be met with the Dai Li and are sent to Lake Laogai, which didn't happen at all. Zuko and Iroh show up again and aren't really given an explanation as to why or how they got to Ba Sing Se, again because they skipped over the entire B-plot of Zuko and Iroh before it shifts over to Katara and Jet, who's still a mass hallucination of Katara's because he's not supposed to show up until episode 17, Lake Laogai.
Jet, come with me.
Oh, great.
Appa.
Now Aang's roped into the mass hallucination too. There's a quick run through the lake with mass hallucination Jet and Aang. Then the perspective switches over to Iroh and Zuko, who head to Lake Laogai because a Dai Li agent saw Zuko firebending and they need to can him or else they have to be on the run again. Now I get to... Hey, why is the fan service counter at -6? What would constitute the counter going into the negative... Oh wait, I forgot. It's because I get to play as Uncle Iroh. Woo! Lightning ball! Alright, like the last few levels, a couple puzzles later, and another secret tunnel down. And it lands Zuko and Iroh right in front of Appa, who Zuko lets free, and then the perspective shifts again to Aang and Jet, who beat up Long Feng. Alright, that's it, Mr. Krabs. I'm going to do something to you that I should have done a long time ago. And with that, I beat Long Feng. He then gaslights everyone into thinking Jet is here, collapsed on the floor, and Chapter 5 comes to a close. Looking at all the events up until now, the drill was supposed to happen before City of Walls and Secrets, Appa wasn't supposed to reunite until Lake Laogai, and Zuko's agenda for going to Lake Laogai was to find Appa and strike him down, but Iroh tagged along to challenge his morals. Team Avatar didn't meet the Earth King until after the drill, and quite literally the events have been placed out of order so the story moves along at a rapid enough pace to keep players engaged. Well, nothing I can do now but move on to Chapter 7, the drill. Team Avatar, with blueprints in hand and a game plan to destroy the drill, split up. Sokka and Momo deal with the slurry valves, Aang and Katara on support beam cutting duty, and Toph, who was supposed to be outside, in actuality in the story, is on blocking the slurry from evacuating. It's the same song and dance as last time. Complete puzzles, find secrets, do some platforming, beat up some enemies, switch to the next team, secret tunnel! Rinse and repeat the objectives, and I'm at a boss fight now. Oh, okay. Hey, Doc Holliday, we're supposed to be fighting Evos, not a bunch of kids. I don't think Providence is going to... Wait, this isn't Generator Rex, and... well, when you've seen enough animation like I have in my lifetime, voice actor roles just accidentally tend to blend together. Whoopsie. Well, it's a fight on top of the drill with Azula and... Zuko? He's not supposed to be here. In the timeline of events, he and Iroh are waiting on the train to enter Ba Sing Se while Jet is trying to convince Zuko to be a freedom fighter. Finally beating Zuko and Azula.
It will be a pleasure watching your world burn.
Imagination is a wonderful thing, Azula.
Damn, Aang, I thought you had a no-killing rule. Chapter 7 ends with the drill destroyed, Ba Sing Se safe, and Team Avatar victorious. A high note for Team Avatar, and a low note for Zuko, whose unconscious body is dragged off. Well, I can't wait to play through the rest of the game. I hope they adapted the rest of Book 2 the same way so far, because even if they skipped over some important stuff, I'll ride this crazy train until it's closed. Wait, what? It's over? No, 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 no! What about the Earth King, the Guru, the Crossroads of Destiny? I'm gonna vent real quick because I need to get this out of my system. Why did Nickelodeon think this was a good idea? Not only was the team forced to chop up and stitch together a shorter version of Book 2, but they didn't even finish it. The Cave of Two Lovers could have been a short puzzle/maze level. Zuko and Iroh's whole journey could have been a separate short campaign, or short intermissions between the next level to fill us in on their journey, with the chase being a boss battle confronting Azula, and bitter work introducing earthbending mechanics to the player. The desert could have been a short trek into sandbender camps and beating the info out of them for Appa's location, while the Serpent's Pass could have been a short level with another boss fight with the Great Serpent. The Drill and City of Walls and Secrets could have been one level. Appa's Lost Days could have been a flying level. Lake Laogai, the Earth King, the Guru, and the Crossroads of Destiny should have been 4 action-packed levels, with the Crossroads of Destiny culminating in a climactic boss battle between Aang and Katara versus Azula and Zuko. It's just majorly frustrating to see a game based on a movie or show be made and the team wasn't given enough breathing room or time to make sure it was done properly. Alright, mini rant over. With all that said though, I can't really be mad at the team. They had, about 2 years to build, playtest, edit, and redo, and then finalize the game before the premiere of Book 3. I may not be an expert on writing data on the physical media, but finalizing the game means the team, that being THQ Australia again, has to have the game ready in advance so as Book 3 premieres, they can slide the game for Book 2 onto store shelves. So let's say it takes 3 months to finalize the game. Book 2 premiered March of 2006 and ended December of that year. Book 3 premiered on the 21st of September 2007, meaning the time window for completion was roughly 19 to 21 months, or 16 to 19 if finalizing takes time away from developing the game. THQ Studio Australia barely had 2 years to properly put Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Burning Earth together, and less than enough time to fully tell Book 2's story and have a cohesive game. Game-wise, I don't hate it, but The Burning Earth was unfinished. Half the time, sounds wouldn't load in, voice lines would cut out once or twice, character sprites were pushed to the side in favor of single generic silhouettes and conversations, and the rendering makes everything look off. Heck, I didn't mention it because I didn't know if I could recreate it in my next run-through, but some character models, specifically Aang's, just went full-on Danny Phantom, in both the swamp and the library of Wan Shi Tong. It's funny, but at the same time, having an invisible character model makes playing the game that much harder. Other than that, I'm fine with a simple beat-em-up adventure. Kids need something engaging and simple. However, the story of Burning Earth makes no sense because it has to skip over and rearrange so many details to get to the drill that it effectively becomes a brand new story, but not at the same time. I don't mind a brand new plot, but in all honesty, it should have been something loosely tied to Book 2. That's why the first game had me hooked so much, and I'll deviate to explain why. The reason the first game works so well, in my opinion, is because the story, regardless of how short it was, discussed themes about the nature of war machines and their effects on the world. It's the perfect way to have kids discuss nuance and ask questions about the nature of weaponry and machinery used in this aspect of war. It's the very concept of, well, it's nice to have a giant tank on my side, but what are the major consequences and or risks of letting such power be introduced onto the field? And what are its major and minor after effects going to be? It's all wrapped up in a fun little bow for kids playing it to ask themselves as they get older, or if someone wants to jump off from that talking point. It could have worked for The Burning Earth as well. The whole theme of Book 2 was that no matter how hard Team Avatar fought or how prepared they were, their adversaries were either one step ahead or pushed them one step back. They failed, and even in success, that ultimately didn't matter, as the ending of Book 2 showed us that sometimes you have to fall back and retreat. That as much as you hate to admit it, war isn't as simple as one would like to view it. I know a brief idea isn't going to get made into a game, not unless Nickelodeon is looking to hire for their gaming division currently, or I somehow gathered a vast amount of attention and presence on the internet in a short period of time, but I'm gonna say it anyway. My idea is a narrative set between the episodes Lake Laogai and the Earth King. where they show the situation of war to the king. Team Avatar, before splitting up in the Earth King episode, are stopped by a young boy who is tasked with delivering medicine to his sick grandparents, while Zuko and Iroh's side plot is Zuko going through his spiritual metamorphosis while also looking back on the events of Book 2. On Aang's side, it's Team Avatar doing their best to reach their destination as quickly as possible, while detours in the form of helping out Earth Kingdom citizens with their troubles keep popping up. On Zuko's side, he faces going through each of his dreams while also reflecting upon everything that went on up until releasing Appa. Ultimately, with Aang's side culminating in them arriving too late, and the boy's grandparents already passed away, another sore reminder that failure looms around the corner, and while consoling the boy on their way home, Aang remarks, "The hardest part of war is understanding that you can't win every time. The most you can do is pick yourself up and move forward." And Zuko's is him in the finality of his illness, deeply pondering his new perspective of morality and the situation he's in before awaking. Both stories end where the next began, and tie as cleanly as I can make them currently into the narrative. I just thought of an idea that lingered on Zuko's personal journey up until now, and a way to make his regression and then redemption feel more enjoyable, and a narrative for Aang that drove home the core theme of earthbending, which is to face the problem head-on and stand resolute, while also giving one last dose of failure before the heavy triple whammy that is the Earth King, the Guru, and the Crossroads of Destiny take the stage. I know it's not much, but doesn't what I present sound more interesting than playing through a narrative that's had, about 65% of it cut out, stitched together to make the other pieces work, and ending at the halfway point of the base story? Avatar: The Burning Earth wasn't a horrible video game. It felt unfinished, rushed, and like the team was suffering from crunch time, which, considering how in recent years the struggles of creatives have been coming to light, isn't too hard to grasp. Also, when you think about the major heavy hitters for the PS2 and PS3 alongside many other games from other consoles that released that year while my 8-year-old brain was processing grade school English, it's not complicated to see why the game is forgotten in some or most cases. I mean, you had Portal, Team Fortress 2, Half-Life 2, Ratchet & Clank, Tools of Destruction, SpongeBob Atlantis SquarePants, The Simpsons game, and Ben 10 Protector of Earth releasing that month. And even if those games weren't a major factor, the biggest hurdle franchise tie-in games have is they're on the clock. This topic is going to be for a whole other video, but for now, the best way this can be said is, unfortunately, if you watched a popular franchise under a well-known studio during the 2000 to 2010s, or the studio wanted more eyes on the movie or show they're releasing, 1,000 to 1, the piece of media had a franchise tie-in game, and unfortunately, quality games and a rushed production schedule do not mix. I can't really fault anyone but the executives that greenlit the game without giving the team at THQ Studio at Australia ample time and resources to flesh everything out and ensure a quality product. Could Avatar: The Burning Earth have been a quality game if it wasn't beholden to the schedule of having to come out while Book 3 was airing and eyes were on the franchise? Yes, most definitely, but we're here and now, and ripping into the countless people who made the game for earning a paycheck is disgusting and below the belt. And yeah, The Burning Earth was alright. It wasn't incredible, but it wasn't horrible. It sits in the middle because it's the obligatory franchise tie-in game. It's going to be the most bare-bones, cheap, straightforward experience and easy-to-produce game imaginable because franchise tie-in games were the easiest to sell to kids. They don't have to care about the quality of the game. If they see SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, Ben 10, Kids Next Door, or any other well-known cartoon they watched, of course they're going to bug their parents for the video game. It's SpongeBob, but you get to interact with Bikini Bottom as SpongeBob. The same thing with Aang in the Avatar games. So no duh a kid would huff and puff until they got their hands on it. I had my problems, my gripes, and my criticisms of The Burning Earth. But I can't be unreasonably mad at a kid's game. Unless some 9-year-old out there is critically analyzing the media they're watching, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, the video game, and/or The Burning Earth was their introduction to Avatar, which I'd feel sorry for the kid if this was. They aren't ruined on Avatar: The Last Airbender. They just played a goofy side game or two that didn't majorly impact the story. Now please remember, folks, please don't unceremoniously rag on every single franchise tie-in game, because the folks behind them probably got paid peanuts, and then a few or so years later end up seeing and listening to some greasy wad on YouTube who has the emotional intelligence of a mangled desk lamp and the sharp, critical thinking skills of a deflated beach ball rag on the game without knowing the unreasonable workload pushed upon them and their fellow developers in order to get the game out on time. Even game devs today that aren't in the indie scene, to a degree, have to put up with asinine demands and requests from the higher-ups, while also balancing an unhealthy work schedule. So the next time you see a mediocre or bad franchise tie-in game, keep in mind that devs were most likely doing their best with the time and resources they had and the situation they were handed. I'm Mr. J, and I still have one more Avatar: The Last Airbender game to play through, not counting the game based on M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, or the defunct 2008 MMORPG, or the generic mobile game, or the mobile game reskinned to look like a video game, the two Legend of Korra games, Nickelodeon Kart Racer 2 and 3, Nickelodeon All-Star Battle 1 and 2, and the content from Sonic Crossworlds. Oh, you get the point! What I'm trying to say is, I'm out of the frying pan, and into the inferno. But there is one more thing left to say. A secret tunnel! Woo! That's probably all I can say without getting copyright strike from YouTube and Nickelodeon. But guys, good night, because I've got things to do tomorrow. See ya.